a very different perspective on the concept of emotional withholding that will probably not resonate with a lot of people, and that's okay. But because you asked, just like withholding sex, I don't think emotional withholding exists, and I have 2 reasons for that. Now, if what I say makes you feel defensive, I encourage you to go within. The resistance means that you hold on to a conflicting belief. And while you're entitled to believe whatever the hell you want, sometimes our beliefs prevent us from growing. So that gut reaction is an invitation to explore yourself, not to convince other people that you're right or you're justified. As I said, you can believe whatever you want. This is just my perspective. So first, I view everybody as autonomous human beings. They are their own person with their own values and their own needs and their own wants and their own desires. All have free will to decide what they want to do, what is right for them, how they want to behave, etc. I can make requests that they behave in a certain way, but they are under no obligation to fulfill them. And I am not owed that just because we're married or they're my partner. This is really hard for a lot of people to grasp, which means that consciously or subconsciously, you're holding on to a belief of entitlement somewhere. And it could simply just be your programming about what you believe relationships are supposed to be. I totally get why we have those beliefs. But until you acknowledge the entitlement, you'll just keep getting angry at people who don't do what you want them to do, and then you'll never change your perspective. This also has nothing to do with having standards. It has to do with seeing that everyone is free to make their own choices, and I am not owed their emotional labor. So 2, most of the people we're getting upset with for emotional withholding are either emotionally unavailable or they lack emotional intelligence. And both are required in order to develop the emotional intimacy that you're looking for. And whatever intimacy was once there, if you really get honest with yourself, that wasn't genuine emotional intimacy. It was falsely created, because if they genuinely had emotional intelligence and were emotionally available, then you wouldn't be in a situation where you're perceiving withholding. So logically, we can't be withholding something that we don't have the capacity to provide. Now, none of this negates the pain you feel when you realize that someone isn't showing up for you emotionally. We don't want to hold space for the deficiencies in their emotional maturity, because then it becomes a reflection of our own, right? It's much easier to get angry with them and perceive them as monsters than to acknowledge that maybe we too lack those skills. Because if we had those skills, we wouldn't have co-created the false intimacy that we too experienced at the beginning of the relationship. It's literally not your fault. We are not taught those skills, and the matrix feeds off of your unprocessed shame. So I think that when you learn to create self-safety, you no longer perceive people as withholding. You view them as capable or incapable. They're not bad. They're just wounded people. And that also doesn't mean that you stay. It means you see them for who they are and what they have to offer, and you take the lesson and you integrate it and you evolve so that you can be a match for somebody with those skills to come into your life.